for those who might not be able to attend. Okay, so we'll get started with chapter 3, Karma Yoga. So so far we have completed first 2 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. The first chapter was observing the armies on the battlefield. The second chapter we studied was contents of Bhagavad Gita summarized, which pretty much covers the entire Bhagavad Gita. But after that, Arjuna still has some clarifying questions. And that's why Bhagavad Gita conversation spans over 18 chapters. So we'll begin today with chapter 3, Karma Yoga. So before we get started, how many of you have heard the term Karma Yoga? Some of you have heard. Sai Amruta, okay, Sukriti. How about others? Pranav, do you want to make an attempt? What would Karma Yoga might refer to?
I'm not sure.
Okay, no worries. Let's see. Okay, Sai Amruta, let's see what you have to say.
So Prabhuji, the question is what does Karma Yoga mean?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, whatever your understanding is, you can break down the words if you like and
Okay.
try to explain.
Okay. So Karma Yoga is basically doing activities to please the Lord, basically.
Okay. Yeah, so yoga means to link. And with whom are we linking? We are linking with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Yeah. So yoga is a means or a method by which we associate or link or establish a relationship with Krishna. And there are different means of doing that. One particular means of doing that is performing our prescribed duties. So karma refers to executing our prescribed duties, right? So that's what this chapter is focusing on. So we will try to complete it within 2 sessions. Depending upon how much progress we make, we might need another session. But broadly, if I have to divide this chapter into 2 parts, the first part talks of path of engagement and path of renunciation, which is what we will cover today. And then the other path is basically doing duties for a higher cause, which is satisfaction of Vishnu. So that is a higher principle. But before that, before we study higher principle in the next session, the first is to understand what the basic principle is. So that's what we'll talk about, part 1. So what engagement and renunciation, there are 2 different ways one can pursue realization or self-realization. So engagement and renunciation, right? They sound, if you think about it, they are like opposing concepts. Let's see, what does these words mean in ordinary English, or what you understand by that? I'll expand on that. Let's see, someone who has not answered today, want to make an attempt. Ditya, try. What do you understand by engagement, path of engagement versus path of renunciation? What does those words convey to you? I have not explained this yet, but just curious. Like when you read without any background, like this suggest. You want to give it a try? Yes, go ahead, Ditya. If you don't have an answer, that's all right. Anyone else wants to try? I'll open it up.
Could I please try, Prabhuji?
Sorry.
Could I please try, Prabhuji?
You want to try? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, with you.
It's Dave here. I'm using my mom's account. The path of engagement means to like engage in following the Lord, and the path of renunciation means to renunciate all material things and focus on the Lord, spirituality.
So you're saying you're renouncing means you do not. Yeah. So yeah, it covers the area. So engagement means you are actively engaged in doing things. Doing specific services for Krishna, or doing your prescribed duties specifically, even before we talk about service.
Prabhuji.
Yes, Rishi.
So, what I was thinking is path of engagement is where you're engaged and are like spiritually engaged and what's it called, involved in it. And renunciate is where you reject it or something. And the path of
conceptually, what you said makes sense, but there's more to it, because if you just look at the definition that you provided, which means, you see engagement means active engagement in service of Krishna or spiritual path, and renunciation means you give up that path. That means it sounds like you're renouncing the service of Krishna, right? But renunciation can also have a place in service of Krishna, right? So we have to expand that definition. So that's what we're going to talk about. But in general, what you say is correct. So path of engagement means executing one's prescribed duties, and path of renunciation refers to not performing the prescribed duties to begin with, like you completely renounce, and maybe you're not performing any active work, but maybe you're meditating on the Supreme, as opposed to the other path where one is actively engaged using their body, their senses, and they're performing their duties, right? So before we dive into that, the conversation begins by Arjuna asking Krishna, right? He has a question, because if you remember in the previous chapter, the second chapter, we had three divisions, right? Three different themes. And the last theme was Krishna asking Arjuna to perform his prescribed duties for a higher cause, right? And what is that higher cause? To that is service of Krishna. And for that, the Krishna was essentially telling Arjuna that you have to understand why you are performing your duties. For whom are you performing your duties, right? Who is the beneficiary of your work or actions that you are performing, right? For whose satisfaction are you doing this, right? It is important to know that. And when one starts questioning, okay, for whom I am doing this ultimately, if somebody says, well, I'm doing it for me, my family, my society, then all of that is temporary. It goes away, right? That doesn't mean we don't have to serve our our family, or our family society, and other our nation. It doesn't mean that, but there must be higher cause, right? When one sees all this living entities, right, in relationship to Krishna, and then one serves them, first serves Krishna, right? And by serving Krishna, one is also serving the family. So give you an example. Suppose somebody is earning some income, right? So you use a portion of that income by donating or using in active service of Krishna, or one makes bhoga or food. You offer it to the deities, and the remnants of that food becomes prasadam, and then the entire family honors it, right? So it's not we are ignoring the family, but before feeding the family, we are feeding Krishna, right? So it is a path of active engagement. We are not just simply sitting and meditating, we are doing actual work. But Krishna is saying that is important to understand for whom are you cooking, right? For, if the primary focus is Krishna, then the entire activity becomes spiritual. So Krishna is emphasizing that the knowledge is important. You should really know for whom are you doing this. So now Arjuna is asking, okay, if Krishna, if you say that knowledge is more important, right? Then maybe I can just cultivate knowledge. Why I have to engage in this ghastly war, right? You're asking me to fight, and obviously there would be a lot of loss of life as an outcome of this warfare, and you asking me to do that duty as a kshatriyas and ultimately come to the platform of knowledge where I understand for whom I am doing this, as a service to the absolute truth. But if that is important, if the knowledge is the ultimate thing, then why I should be engaging in this war? That is the question Arjuna is asking, and that is the beginning of the 3rd chapter. So because Arjuna's intelligence is bewildered, right? So Arjuna thinks, oh, Krishna is saying 2 different things. In one instance, he's saying, well, you do your duties. Then he's saying, gaining knowledge is important. So he's confused. Well, which one is true? Like look like this is equivocal. What does equivocal means? Arjuna thinks that the instructions of Krishna are equivocal. Pranav. What does that mean here? Arjuna is feeling that whatever the Krishna has said so far is equivocal. What is he trying to say?
That applies to everyone?
No, not exactly over here. He's saying, have you heard the word equivocal?
No.
Okay. So maybe you can add that word to your vocabulary. Who can explain what equivocal means? You can read the sentence again here. Arjuna's intelligence was bewildered by apparent equivocal instructions. And the equivocal here is a question he's asking here to Krishna, where he says, "Hey, if knowledge is important, why are you asking me to engage in this war?" Okay, Ashwin.
Equivocal is like I guess that statements that would conflict each other.
Yes, exactly. Statements that conflict each other are called equivocal. Arjuna. So if those of you don't know this word, write it down, right? So you can add it to your vocab. That means it seems like both of them are equally important. I don't know which one is more important or which one is the conclusive truth. Krishna, you say, should I do my duty or should I cultivate knowledge? So you think it is like because you say 2 different things at 2 different times. So that's what Arjuna is confused. So then Krishna, in response to that, he begins by saying that, hey, Arjuna, in the 2nd chapter or the previous, I just explained you, there are 2 categories of men. The first category is those who try to understand the truth by cultivating knowledge, either by direct observation. There are different ways you can cultivate knowledge. What are the different ways you can cultivate knowledge? Well, one is, if I ask you, if you have to find out, what the truth is, not specifically regarding to Bhagavad Gita, but anything, right? So you think about how you find out truth using science, for instance, right? So the one method of finding out truth or knowledge is by doing experiments, right? And what do you do when you do experiments? You observe. And how do you observe? You observe using your senses, or sometimes you use measuring instruments. When you perform a scientific experiment, you use different measuring instruments to collect data, make observations, right? You might measure pressure or height, length, weight, different things. You have different kind of sensors. But essentially, by using your senses, when you see something, you come to a conclusion, right? Right. Suppose like Newton, when he saw that the apple fell down from the tree, right? So he pondered about it. Why did it fall down? Why did it not fly up in the air? Maybe there is something that attracts the apple down, right? Or Galileo, when he performed the experiment on the Leaning Tower of Pisa, he was standing there and he dropped, 2 metallic balls. One was heavy and one was light, and wanted to see which one is faster, which one hits the ground first. So you basically observe things, right? So that's one way of gaining knowledge, right? So that is called empirical knowledge. So write it down. Another word, empirical. Here it is, empirical. Empirical means knowledge that is gained by direct perception of your senses. Okay, so that is called empirical knowledge. Then next is philosophical speculation, or basically use your intelligence to and your past experiences to come up with estimation, right? For instance, suppose we are in the, we are in this, we are all listening to this class, right? And all of a sudden you hear a sound, right? A loud sound, let's say a sound of a chopper, like a helicopter that's passing by, right? And because in the past you have heard that sound before of a helicopter passing by, and you look up in the sky and where is the sound coming from? Maybe first time when you heard the sound of a helicopter, and then you say, hey, where is the sound coming from? You look up in the sky and you see this like an airship, like a vehicle, it's an aircraft with rotor blades on top of it, which are spinning, and like, okay, this is a helicopter. There's another set of blades that are spinning on its tail. So now when you hear the sound again, though you're not seeing the helicopter, you're making an estimation. Yeah, you're making an intelligent guess that, well, it could be, most likely it is a helicopter. It might be very well that your neighbor is playing, watching a movie, and then, has a volume that's pretty high. And, maybe there's a movie scene in which a helicopter is passing, and then you might conclude, well, oh, this is, this is the sound of an actual helicopter passing in the, in the sky. But actually, maybe it's just someone playing, right? But you're making your intelligent guess. So that is second kind of knowledge, which is philosophical speculation. Now, here's philosophical speculation means as a very specific meaning. But in general, speculation means you make an intelligent guess. So first is empirical knowledge, which is, your direct perception. You see, feel, observe. That's one way of acquiring knowledge. But that has only its own limitations. Like your eyes can only see certain things. It cannot see everything, right? And then similarly, when you want to hear something, then you have a limited range of frequency that you can hear. So the other ways, yeah, you can make an intelligent guess. So here, philosophical speculation means reading scriptures, and then you try to make sense out of it. Maybe you're not studying in necessarily under someone's guidance, but then you try to make sense out of, well, this is probably what it means. So that is philosophical speculations. So in general, this is called Gyana Yoga, because Gyan means knowledge and yoga means linking with Krishna. So here a yogi is trying to link with Krishna by cultivating knowledge. Well, who is Krishna? Who are we? What is our relationship with Krishna? How can I re-establish it? What should I meditate on? Right? So it's just cultivating knowledge. That's one path. The other path is devotional service or karma yoga. Means one is, not, the focus is more on actually doing the service, right? Okay, I am a merchant. Okay, let me do business. I earn some money, use a portion of it for service of Krishna, and then the whole the remnants of that I use it for maintaining my own family, right? So farmer maybe grows grains and offer a portion of grains as a tax to the king, and the king performs fire sacrifices, right, for Vishnu. That's how it is in traditional society, right? The Brahmana is engaged in teaching the Kshatriyas and the other Brahmanas, children, and then he doesn't accept much in terms of salary or fees, but maintains by whatever charity one receives. So in this way, one is actually doing some work, right? And then the results of that work are offered to Krishna. So that is called karma yoga. The other path is Gyana Yoga. So here's a very nice analogy that Prabhupada provides, is that actually it might appear that these are two different paths, because Arjuna is confused. Which path should I do? Should I cultivate knowledge, Gyana, or should I act, do karma? But actually, these are not two separate things. They are interrelated. How? You can see Gyana means knowledge. So example can be given that suppose you want to water a plant, right? So in order to water a plant, you have to first of all understand, well, which part of the plant I should water. So Anika, what do you think? If you water a plant, what's the right part or the right, the plant has a lot of different parts to it. So where do you think makes the most sense to water, right? Whom you should water? Should I water the flowers? Should I water the leaves? Which part of the plant needs water? Anika, you want to give that a try? Anika, you are on mute if you're trying to say something.
Wait, I didn't understand the question.
So you have a plant at your home, right? Do you have any in your garden, right?
Yeah.
So when you water the plant needs water, right?
Yeah.
So by what organ or what part of the plant absorbs water? Where you should put the water? Should I, for the plant to absorb water, which part of the plant can absorb water?
You put the water in the soil.
Okay. And why is that?
Because in the soil there are the roots, and that's what gives the water to the leaves and everything.
Yes, right. So if you want to sustain the plant, right, then or nurture the plant, you have to water the roots, right? If you water the leaves or flowers, it's not going to help, right? The water has to go into the roots. So one should directly water the roots. So one has to water the soil, right? So Gyana Yoga is finding out whom should be watered, right? Where and where. Okay, then you find out, well, roots of the tree should be watered. But where are the roots? That's the next question, right? Well, the roots are in the soil. So that is Gyana. You acquire knowledge. But suppose I find out. So Anika told me that, I should water the roots of the plant. So what do you think the next step should be? Is that enough? Okay, somebody asked me, I found out. I found out that just the roots of the plant needs to be watered. So is my duty over? I don't have to do anything because, Krishna just said, well, ultimate purpose of doing action or performing one's prescribed duty is to gain knowledge. When one gains knowledge, that's the ultimate objective. That's what it seems like. So now I have found out, well, the roots have to be watered. Is that enough? Or should I be doing something else? Akshaj. What's your take on it? Can you unmute yourself and try to attempt? Sonika told me I have to water the plants. Is that enough? Just knowing, or is that not enough? What else I should be doing?
You also need to keep the plants in the sun.
Who is this?
Devla.
Okay. Okay, water the, okay, you're saying, okay, sunlight is needed. That's all right. But just in regard to watering, just knowing that watering the plant, is that enough? Let's see. Somebody is not answered today. I'll give you turn. Okay, yeah, Ria, go ahead. Ria, I see your hand raised. You want to answer that? Unmute yourself. You unmute yourself.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So is that enough? Is it just to know that the roots of the plant needs to be watered, or do I need to do something about it?
Well, I mean, you need to water the roots only, but you also need to know maybe the plant needs like sunshine also, and
Yeah,
it
that's
needs
all
other
right.
things.
Yeah, that's all right. It definitely needs other things, but just knowing, what do I do after I know something?
You do it.
Exactly, right? So that is karma yoga.
Yeah.
Right? So knowing simply is not enough. So that is Arjuna's confusion. Arjuna somehow thought, that Krishna is emphasizing that I should know who is the beneficiary for whom I should do this prescribed duties. So Arjuna is saying, well, if it is knowledge is important, then why you are asking me to engage in this war? right? Now I know, so, but why do I have to fight? It's like saying, well, I know that the roots of the plant needs to be watered. Well, you said knowledge is important. I cultivated knowledge. So why are you asking me to water the plant, right? So that's, in a way, it's a ridiculous argument, but it's not obvious because the situation is a little complex. And so Arjuna is bewildered. He's asking that. And so Krishna is trying to explain that, it's, well, there are two paths, but they are not independent. They are interrelated. Having known that I have to water the roots, I have to act on it. That is karma yoga. But if I have to, if I say, on the other hand, okay, I have to do something about the plant, I have to give water to the plant, right? But I don't know which part I have to give water, then that's not helpful, right? Somebody might say, I'm doing my service. My service is where I have to water the plant. So I'm watering, I want to water the plant, but then I don't know which part of the plant I should water. And somebody tells me, oh, you know what? Well, you have to water the roots. But if it's misdirected, you water the leaves or flowers, then doesn't get the full benefit. Okay, now somebody tells me, okay, I have to water the roots. Now, where are the roots? I should know that also. So the point is, one cannot perform karma yoga perfectly unless one has knowledge. So initially people, they all begin with karma yoga, in the sense they not doing exactly karma yoga, but they're doing their prescribed duties. But because they do not know for whom these duties are meant for, it is not yoga, right? They are doing things, but they don't know the higher purpose, or the purpose for which that needs to be done. But in due course of time, when they cultivate that knowledge, then karma yoga matures into Gyana Yoga. And having acquired the knowledge, one should not stop. Okay, now I know the real reason. So I know the real reason, so I should stop doing my karma. No, you continue to do that karma, your karma or prescribed duties, but now this time you do it knowing why it needs to be done, right? And similarly, having known something, or somebody starts with Gyana Yoga instead of Karma Yoga, somebody might have directly taken to knowledge, but having acquired the knowledge, they have to act on it, right? So both of them are important. So who can summarize what we discussed so far? Let's see who has not answered so far. Kavya, you want to try that? What have we discussed so far? You want to unmute yourself. Kavya, you there? We cannot hear you. Okay, let's try someone else. Tulsi Priya, you want to summarize what we have studied so far? Today's chapter. You're on mute, so if you're trying to say something, we cannot hear you. Okay, I hope all of you are still listening to the class and not just logged on, because I don't see your video, so I don't know if you're just logged on and you're not present. Okay, let's see. Sukriti. Go ahead, unmute yourself. I see you unmuted, but I cannot hear you. Sukriti, you want to say something? Okay, Sai Amruta, go ahead.
So we discussed about karma yoga and jnana yoga, and that we should be so we know that we should water the plant, but we also have to implement it and actually water the plant.
Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So then what is karma yoga and what is jnana yoga? If you explain simply, how would you
Can I
explain?
say, Prabhuji?
Yeah, go ahead, Ria.
So jnana yoga is like the philosophical speculation, and basically they understand it. They're trying to understand understanding themselves by with like empirical knowledge, which is knowledge gained by the senses, and then karma yoga is when the people work and then they the the fruits of their actions they give it to Krishna, so it's like actual work. And Jnana yoga is just like thinking it, but then like studying it and thinking it. But karma yoga is like you actually have to kind of know some both, because you need to know about it. Like you said, that karma yoga action, like you're still doing action, but you're watering the leaves, so that won't work. But you need to have like also some, I guess, do a little bit of jnana yoga, so that you need to know where to water the plant,
Yes.
and then you also have to do it.
Yeah. So you can simply say, in short, that well, Gyana Yoga is like trying to find out, what part of the plant needs to be watered and where that part is. And then Karma Yoga is actually watering the plant based on that knowledge, right? So in this way, we can understand what's Karma Yoga and Gyana Yoga. Good. Very well. So we'll move on to the next topic. Then Krishna says, well, I already told you two paths, right? So one was, so Gyana Yoga, it seems it's a path of renunciation. If somebody is exclusively cultivating knowledge and not acting on it, right? They're cultivating knowledge about Krishna, his greatness, and simply meditating on it, but they're not using all their body and the senses. They're simply meditating on it. So maybe you can consider that path as path of renunciation for the purpose of this conversation, right? And engagement is one is actually doing prescribed duties and knowing why I'm doing prescribed duties, that it's for the satisfaction of Krishna. That is a path of active engagement. So now the question is, essentially what Arjuna is trying to ask is, well, which one is better? Should I take the path of renunciation where I'm simply cultivating knowledge but not acting on it, but I'm still meditating on Krishna, right? As versus path of active engagement, that actually I'm doing my duties and then offering the results to Krishna. So Krishna is going to answer which is better, but let's see if somebody wants to make a guess. Krishna Chaitanya, what do you think? Which one is a better path according to your opinion?
To do duties.
Do your duties, okay? And why do you think that is the case? Why not?
Because you were like born for like the reason to like do the duties, so that later in your next life you can like go back to Krishna, like if you become a Brahmin. At least that's how it was.
Okay, but what if I don't do my duties and I'm simply meditating on Krishna? Why is
I
that
think
not?
in Kali Yuga, that's like you can't sustain yourself basically.
Yeah, that's one good reason, right? Yeah, everyone needs to maintain the body, and for maintaining the body, at least you need to do some work, right? So, and then people have different nature, and according to nature, they are forced to do certain kind of activities, right? So the prescribed process for everyone is that, well, you do your duties, and by doing duties, you cultivate renunciation, but this renunciation is not renouncing the duties. What you renounce is the sense of enjoying the results. Because once you do your any work or action, you don't get the results. But you give up the sense, or you renounce the idea of enjoying it independently of Krishna. Rather, what you do is, well, whatever results I got, I'll engage it in Krishna's service, and then I'll take the remnant. So that is a proper attitude. Because if someone artificially tries to renounce, what will happen? First of all, it's not possible. Krishna says everyone is forced to act according to their quality. So Krishna later tells to Arjuna that, hey, you think that you want to renounce, but because your nature is Kshatriya, you won't be able to remain passive. You won't be able to just simply sit somewhere and meditate. You'll be forced to fight. That's just your nature. You're thinking, you're artificially renouncing it. Right. So first of all, it's not possible. And even if somebody artificially renounces, like Arjuna wanted to do, what will happen is, because their renunciation is not real. Because what is real renunciation? As I said, I just said, what is real renunciation? Is it renunciation of the duties or something else? Piyush.
Material
It is,
desires.
yeah, desire to enjoy the results, right? That is what needs to be renounced. But if
Yeah, like,
somebody,
means, like it doesn't mean duties, but it means to like renounce your material possessions and stuff like that.
duties
Material
means,
desires, stuff like that.
so duties, yeah, duties is like, you might
You
have a
don't
bit of
renounce your duties, but you renounce your material possessions and material
desires. Yes. So the
desires.
possessions that you get, you need some possessions, right, for to maintain your family and yourself. But there's a difference between need and a want, right? So devotees, they don't spend luxuriously on wants. Of course, they would spend luxuriously to me, to for the sake of Krishna's service. So suppose somebody buys a car, then with the idea that, well, first of all, as soon as you got a car, well, you offer that car to Krishna, or if you have deities, in the sense you take deities of Krishna out for a ride in the car, and then when you use the car in the service of the devotees, the service of the temple, and you also use it for yourself. But what did you do the first thing? Well, first thing you did it is for service of Krishna, right? So you put Krishna in the center. So you don't consider yourself as the primary enjoyer, right? So one is renouncing the desire to enjoy that car for one's enjoyment. Because suppose you say, I'm going to use the service of devotees or temple, then, well, of course you'll have more wear and tear on the car. You might have to wash and clean your car more often. Or more people use it, then it will tend to get more dirty, right, more often. But you don't think, oh, because I have to deal with all this trouble, I'm not going to use it in the service of the devotees, or the service of Krishna, right? So then that is material desires, right? Okay, my enjoyment is more important than others, right? So that's not the attitude. Yeah. On the other hand, because see, the renunciation does not come naturally, so instead one has to continue doing prescribed duties and renounce not the activities but the desire to enjoy. Because ultimately real renunciation is not renouncing the duties, it's renouncing the desire to enjoy. Because Krishna then gives the example of a pretender, where somebody pretends to renounce something, that, okay, I'm detached, I'm not going to perform my duties, but their mind is still thinking of enjoyment. In the mind they are thinking, they're meditating, oh, this is how I can enjoy, this is maybe I should do, this is I should, right? Suppose you're doing fasting, for instance, but you're doing fasting out of peer pressure, or because somebody asks you to do it. You really don't have, it's not very natural to you. Then what will happen? Well, you did not have your meal, but you're disturbed by it, and you're thinking, when will this fast end? And then I'll get to eat various nice preparations, right? So what's happening over here? uh, who can explain is it all right, or something's lacking over here? Like nirjala, you don't eat any food, no water, nothing. So you maybe you're doing that kind of fasting, but you're doing it because somebody asked you to do, but your mind is not thinking about when this will end and I can enjoy some food, right? Now, yeah, what do you think? Is it all right, or something's wrong, or?
Can you say the question again, please?
Yeah, the question is, suppose you're doing nirjala fasting, you're fasting from grains, even fruits or water,
Yeah.
but your mind is now restless, in the sense that you're thinking about the idea of fasting. Maybe is okay, you save some time and you can use it for spiritual activities, but now you're thinking about, instead you're thinking about eating food or prasadam, right? When will this fast end and I can enjoy some food? to satisfy my hunger. Is that all right? Or there's
Well,
something coming?
Every think that, like at some point, it's not right to think, but like I think everyone thinks that when they're like fasting.
Mm.
I don't
You
know.
said everyone thinks that, okay.
Most people.
What do you think there are? Yeah, okay. So do you think if somebody is fasting, but he's really engrossed in serving Krishna and he's not affected by hunger, and he's not meditating on eating, right? So which one you think is better?
Like in doing devotional service and not like thinking about eating.
Right. So now you sort of the two, you say, fasting and not thinking about food is better. What about a third option where, especially the option which I'm going to give now compared to, let me tell you the option first. So the other option is, well, instead of doing full fast, maybe you take non-grain prasadam or maybe just simple fruits so that your mind and, hunger is not disturbed and you can continue to do your service. You think that is better than doing a full fasting at the same time thinking about food?
Yeah, I
and
think
not
that's correct. There's no point in fasting if you're not thinking about Krishna and if you're just thinking about the food.
right.
If you have like some food, then you probably won't be thinking about the food. You'll be thinking about Krishna.
Yep. Okay, yeah, that's the right answer. So that's what Krishna is saying. He says one who is not performing the actions, that means he's restraining the senses of action, that means he's not doing any action, he's renounced, but in the mind he's thinking about enjoying the results of the actions that he has renounced. He's saying that person is certainly deluded and is called a pretender. So he says I am renounced, but actually he's a pretender because one is giving up one's duties artificially, but the desires are still there, right? Instead, it is much better, as Navya explained, right? Navya explained that it's better rather that one does the prescribed duties. Like she was saying that, hey, better to not do a full fast, at least have some fruits or some simple food, non-grains, that so that you can still save time. And now that because your mind and hunger is not agitated, then you can think about Krishna and serve Krishna. So that is better. Similarly, instead of artificially renouncing one's duties, Krishna is saying Arjuna, hey, don't give up your duties as Kshatriya artificially. Rather, you perform your duties, actively engaging your mind and senses, but at the same time, you think about Krishna or me, and then you offer the results to me. That is way more superior. So yes. So what's the conclusion? Who can summarize this particular slide? Someone who has not answered yet. Let's see. Did I see Arisha today? She was there and she lost. Arush. I have 28 attendees. Where are the rest? Oh, I have to see more. That's why I'm missing everyone. I'm looking at the list. Just give me a minute. Okay, Anay. I haven't heard from Anay in a while. Anay, can you summarize what you learned over here? You unmute yourself. Yeah. What do you think is the summary of the learnings here? Just give it a try. Don't worry about right or wrong answer. We can hear you. Okay. Okay, you can type and send it to me. Let's see. We'll try someone else. Sana. Sana Manon. If you're trying to speak something, we cannot hear you. You're muted. You want to unmute yourself. I hope all of you can hear me. That's why I encourage everyone to turn their video on, so I know you are there. Because if the video is off, then I have no idea if you are logged on and then
Sorry,
you.
my screen froze. I could hear you like a little bit.
Yeah. So you want to summarize what you learned here in this slide?
What? Sorry, it's just glitching a lot.
Okay, so the question is, what did you learn here in this slide? What the renunciation versus performing duties, right? Which one is better and why? We want to summarize that quickly.
I actually wasn't really that sure.
Okay. Do you want to share anything that you learned here? Or if you did not understand, you can always ask it. By the way, this applies to everyone. If I'm explaining something you don't understand, please
Prabhu, can
stop.
you hear me now? I think I fixed my mic.
Yeah, sure. I'll give you a chance. Just
Alright. I think that like you have to have a little of each in order to attain perfection, because it says in the first thing that by merely abstaining from work one can't be free from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. And so I think that like if you like sort of restrain yourself, but like your mind still is like on those sense objects, then it's not really working. But like if you control your senses and you don't restrain, but you like you serve Krishna and you like come into Krishna consciousness without renunciation, then you're like more superior.
yeah. When you say without renunciation, maybe that's where someone starts, but then one eventually needs to renounce. What
Yeah.
is it that one needs to renounce?
One needs to renounce their like the material things.
Does he need to renounce the duty or the results of one's duties?
He needs to renounce the I think the results of one's duties.
Okay. How confident are you in that answer?
I'm kind of confident. I'm not sure on that though.
Okay. Who can help Anay to come to a conclusion? He believes that renouncing the results is more important, not renouncing the duties, but he's not fully confident. Who can help him come to the right answer? And if he gave the right answer, how can you help him be confident about it? Priti.
Well, he has the right answer because
Okay.
you're supposed to perform your duties, but you're supposed to offer the results of your duties to the God so
Yep.
that he enjoys them before you.
Yes, that's the correct answer, right? Instead of
Right,
renouncing
thanks.
duties and still meditating on enjoyment, that is called pretension. So yeah, Anay, your answer was right. You answered it
Okay,
nicely.
yeah, I was just like I was just like a bit confused whether like you shouldn't like completely do your duties or you should just do the results. So
Yeah, one should not give up the duties artificially, but one should definitely give up the sense of enjoyment. Okay, so that's the correct answer. Thank you. By the way, yeah, so anyone, if you don't understand anything at a point, please interrupt and ask me questions, because it's the only way I can figure out if you are following or not, right? And that's why I'm asking you questions, I'm putting you on a spot, just for me to understand if you're following or not. There's no other reason, and I can help you if you're not following it. So is this clear now? I was asking whom before. Was it, whom was I talking to?
You were asking me.
Sana, yes. Is that clear now? Do you have any doubts or questions on this?
No, I think I got it mostly.
Okay. But if you didn't get something, let me know now, right?
Okay. Yeah, I was a little glitchy on that chapter, so I mainly just read off the notes.
Sorry.
It was a little glitchy in that chapter, so I just read the what you wrote down.
Yeah, I mean, these notes are there, but more than notes, if you that is as a good reference after the fact. But the explanation that I provide in the class, I think that can really help understand, right?
Yeah.
Then if you understand that, then these notes will help you. But if you don't understand what I'm saying, and then if you don't interrupt and ask me, and then if you try to go back and read the notes, then it won't help you. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So while I'm explaining, if something is not clear, you can interrupt me. Okay.
Okay.
So we'll move on to the next slide. So then Krishna is introducing a new theme of the science of sacrifice, right? And here, of course, there are many different kind of sacrifices. The specific sacrifice referred to here is a fire sacrifice. You see a picture of that over here. You would have experienced this at some point in time, either at your home or at the temple where we do this. It's also called homam, in which there is a fire pit, and the fire represents the tongue of Vishnu, in which different kind of oblations are offered, which typically it's either different grains or ghee, and by offering this as a sacrifice for satisfaction of Vishnu, of course Vishnu does not need any of this, he's self-satisfied, but it's a way of expressing our love and devotion and gratitude to Vishnu, and Vishnu is pleased, then he also reciprocates with us. Of course, he's providing all our needs, even to the atheists. It's not saying that only those are theists. He will provide them the bounties of the nature. Everything in the nature is easily available to everyone, regardless of whether one worships Krishna or not. But devotees in general, they want to express their gratitude, and then Krishna does reciprocate. Though he's impartial, he does reciprocate to his devotees as well. So the system that Krishna created, he's saying, Arjuna, he says, in the beginning of the creation, the human beings were created and different demigods were created to maintain the universe or different affairs within the universe. And that includes the creation, destruction. There are, you need the wind, the sunlight, the rains, right? The ocean currents, everything takes part in the smooth functioning of the universe or the nature. And there are different demigods who are in charge of this, different aspects of universal management. And when everything is in the order, then people are peaceful. Suppose when the things are not in order, you have extreme weather, tornadoes or hurricanes or drought. You don't have enough rain, which is what the West Coast and Southwest United States is experiencing right now. There is severe drought. And so people, then they are disturbed when things are not in order. So now demigods are in charge of maintaining that order, but demigods also themselves, they need sustenance. Demigods also need sustenance. But demigods, they are not engaged in farming. Humans are engaged in farming. Demigods are in charge of different things, right? Demigods are in charge of different universal affairs, but you never see description in the heavenly planets of demigods engaged in farming. You'll see demigods as a Kshatriyas or even Brahmanas. There are gurus. There is Sukracharya, who is the guru of the demons, and then Brihaspati, he is the guru of the demigods, right? So they also have Brahmanas, there are Kshatriyas, there are Sudras or laborers, those are servants of demigods. But you don't find the Vaishyas, the farming community in heavenly planets. So then they rely on the sacrifices offered by humans to them, different kind of food grains. Well, how do we offer them? Well, we don't offer them directly to the demigods. We offer it to Vishnu. And demigods are actually servants of Vishnu's. And so the remnants of those, results of those sacrifices, the demigods partake in it first as prasad or the mercy of Vishnu. And further, when we take those remnants, right, and demigods are devotees of Vishnu, and so we take the remnants of the remnants. So first the demigods partake and we take, then it becomes Mahaprasad, right? So anyway, this arrangement is very conducive for maintenance of both demigods and human beings, because human beings, they need grains, right? Everyone agrees? Anyone here who does not agree that human beings need grains? What about people who eat meat? Somebody say, we don't eat grains. I'm a non-vegetarian. So what
Well,
does it
even
mean?
people who don't eat, like who are non-vegetarian, they also will need grains. They won't be able to just sustain on non-vegetarian food.
Okay. Well, somebody says, I'm gonna just eat that. What do you
But
tell?
they won't be able to live on that. I mean, it
Okay,
doesn't have all the nutrients you need.
They'll get malnutrition.
well, that's one
The
answer, but
animal
not
needs it
so
too.
satisfactory. Is
The
there a
animal
better
needs
answer?
plants.
Exactly, right? So animals also, like, if you look at these cows, somebody, it's a very horrible thing to eat cow. It's very sinful. But those who are eating cows also, the cows need to be fed with grains. If there are no grains, then there is no cows, and there's no any cattle, then, people who eat meat, they also cannot survive. Okay, where do the grains come from? Who can say? So now everyone needs grain. Where do the grains come from? Let's see who's not answered. Madhava. Madhav. Where do grains come from? Unmute yourself, Madhav. We cannot hear you. Madhav, you still there? Okay, Rishikesh. Where do grains come from? I know you are there. I can see you.
Grains come from wheat.
Well, wheat is a kind of grain, but where do you get it from?
The earth and the rain.
You get it from a plant and then you put it in a mill and then you
You
get
get it from the
grains.
plant. Okay. Where do plant come from? Veena. Where do the plants or the crop, where do they come from? Veena, you want to unmute yourself? We cannot hear you. You are muted. Okay, Nanda, where do plants come from? Nanda Tukaram. Nanda, I think that's Anushka, right? I believe that's your.
Yeah, okay. So plants come from the soil and rain and air and stuff.
Exactly, right? So you need rain. Is that true? She's saying rain. What if I say, well, I'm just gonna build a dam on the river, on the Colorado River, right? And so California.
Like seeds. Oh, seeds.
Okay, you need seeds. Okay, seeds I got from the previous harvest. So I have seeds. But I need water. Like sunlight's easily available. I need water, but you said rain, but what if say, well, I don't need rain. Pranav, Ashwin, is it suppose I say I don't need rain. I can just build a dam on the river. Is it? And then I build canals and I can irrigate the fields. Is that acceptable?
No.
Why? Why is it not acceptable? Okay, Ashwin says it's not acceptable. Let's see, was not answered. Pranav, why is that not acceptable?
Probably because if you use up the water, it evaporates and doesn't come down.
Okay, so you're saying long term, these dams, we basically once you build dams, you tend to waste a lot of water. Like Colorado Lake Mead, the dam near Las Vegas, which actually provides water to all Southwest America. It's the lowest water level ever. And one time they were thinking the water is inexhaustible, unlimited water, but now they have drained the river. So that is not sustainable. Okay, so that's not sustainable. Then what is it that you can really rely on, which is rain? And where do you get the rain from? How do you get rain?
Demigods.
Yes, right. So you rely on the demigods. Indra, who is the king of is the demigod of rain. He is responsible for making sure there is timely rain. And then why would Indra oblige you? Is obliged to provide you rain. Ashika. What's the answer?
I didn't hear the question.
So Riya said that demigods, they provide rain. Indra particularly provides rain, but Indra is not, why would Indra provide rain to us, right? So that's what the question is. The answer to that is that, as I say, demigods also, they need subsistence or food. So Krishna has made an arrangement. So in the heavenly planets, there is no farming. So how do demigods sustain? It's a mystic arrangement by which when you offer oblations in the fire, they go to Vishnu, and the remnants, the oblations, when they're offered in the name of demigods, the demigods are nourished, and their power and position comes from these sacrifices. And so when demigods are happy, then they are able to make sure there is timely and sufficient rain and the fields are irrigated. So that is the system of sacrifice. So we'll conclude this shortly, and we are over time. I'll just take one more minute and conclude this today's topic. So this is called the science of sacrifice, or the chakra, or the cycle. What is the cycle? Well, after doing the sacrifices, what will happen is the demigods are pleased. There is rain. From the rain, grains come, and you use that grains and again offer it in the sacrifice. Not everything, right? But a portion of that you again offer in the sacrifice, and the rain again comes, right? So the entire cycle keeps on continuing. But those who are taking benefits from the demigods, but they are not offering in return, is that good? Suppose, you come to my home and you bring, nice, I don't know, you make some nice food preparation, you bring it over for me and my family, and I invite you to come, but then I don't offer a portion of it back to you. Is that nice? Or is that rude? You brought something to me, but I don't offer it to you. Right? I said, I just take it. You came to my home. Okay, so I don't offer you anything in return. So that's not, huh? Somebody say something. Gia, I want to say something. You are muted.
No, Prabhuji, are you calling me Prabhuji?
Yeah, I thought somebody was trying to say. Yeah. So basically, it's, Krishna is saying it, one who does not offer anything in return is a thief. You take, but you don't offer anything in return. That's thief. Right. So the science of sacrifice is, we get benediction from demigods and we offer it back to them. So this is the science of sacrifice. But ultimately, it is for satisfaction of Vishnu. That is a higher understanding. So all the yajnas have to be performed for the satisfaction of Vishnu, and Vishnu is satisfied, the demigods are also satisfied. And so that's why devotees, when they make bhoga or they prepare food, they first offer it to Krishna. And whatever the remnants are left, they honor the remnants as prasadam. And so that is not sinful. Otherwise, we take all the grains which Vishnu provides us and we don't offer it to him. So that is like being a thief. Right? And that is considered sinful. And I want to think about your homework is there is an analogy. If you learn social science, right, in the, you can think of an analogy, something in the government, how governments also operate. There is something similar to the idea that we see over here, where you offer a portion back to the administrators. So here the administrators are demigods. We offer a portion of the harvest to them. Similarly, in the administration of the country also there is a similar arrangement. So I want you to read the verses 9 through 19, at least the translation. Also, you can look at this slide and understand the concept. And I want you to, next time when we meet next Sunday, I want you to elaborate on that analogy of a parallel analogy in how the administration of a government works, right? And then we'll analyze that. So that's your homework. So we'll end today's class. If there are any final questions or comments, I can take that. Anyone? Okay.